On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
History has been made, the first black woman to be confirmed on the Supreme Court, when we will see Ketanji Brown Jackson take the bench. And law enforcement agencies joining forces to fight the fentanyl crisis in Colorado.
Drug dealers who are dealing fentanyl in our community are not welcome here.
We are now getting a clearer picture on how big the problem really is. Plus, creating inclusive housing near Denver, how one organization is getting the community involved in the process. Thank you for joining us at 4. I'm Jacqueline Allen. The full Senate has voted to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first black woman to serve on the nation's highest court. Judge Jackson went through a marathon round of confirmation hearings as well as dozens of face-to-face meetings with senators, all in an effort to secure bipartisan support. ABC's Ike Egiachi is in Washington with more.
And this nomination is confirmed.
History was made today. The Senate confirming Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court on a bipartisan basis, fulfilling President Biden's promise on the campaign trail to nominate the first black woman to the nation's highest court. President Biden and Judge Jackson watching the vote count from the Roosevelt Room. Vice President Kamala Harris presiding over Judge Jackson's confirmation vote in the Senate. Judge Jackson held one-on-one meetings with 97 senators on the Hill. She also sat through over 20 hours of questioning during her hearings and filed 330 pages of written responses. That's more written questions than any previous Supreme Court nominee. All Democrats rallied behind Judge Jackson along with 3 Republicans.
Judge Jackson will go down in history as an American giant upon whose shoulders others will stand tall.
Republicans tried to paint her as soft on crime. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell once again slamming Jackson shortly before the vote, claiming she's failing to commit to oppose expanding the Supreme Court.
The solution is for all the justices to stay in their lane. There's one right number of justices who seek to follow the law. The number is 9.
ABC News now learning Judge Jackson promised Republican Senator Susan Collins that she would never take a position on that issue. Once Judge Jackson joins the court this fall, she'll be taking on several controversial cases, encompassing the death penalty, the Clean Water Act, and the humane treatment of animals in our food supply, to name a few. Now, one of the biggest cases of the fall so far is the challenge to Harvard and the University of North Carolina's use of race in college admissions, a case that could determine the future of affirmative action nationwide. Judge Jackson says she'll recuse herself from that case, given her position on Harvard's Board of Overseers. Ike Egiachi, ABC News, Washington.
As the University of Colorado gets closer to announcing the finalists for the new president, several Latino groups say the selection process has been flawed. The Colorado Latino Leadership Advocacy and Research Organization, or CLARO, says the presidential search team excluded prominent Colorado Latinos from the list of finalists, but included the interim president, Todd Solomon, who promised not to seek the position. CLARO says this presents a conflict of interest.
There's quite a lot that we are concerned with. We're not asking for anything more than transparency in this process. And at the lack of transparency, we would like to see the CU Regents start this process over.
Tonight on Denver 7 News at 5, we are going 360 in depth on the selection process for CU's new president. You'll hear from the chair of the Board of Regents and another Latino group that says they think the selection process has been fair. The number of homes for sale in the Denver metro is up slightly over previous months, but inventory is still historically low. Denver 7's Russell Haythorne has more on what these new numbers mean for people buying or selling a home.
Yeah, the numbers continue to be mind-boggling. According to DMAR, the Denver Metro Association of Realtors, the average home is staying on the market just 4 days. Appreciation in the month of March was a staggering 9%, and the average home is now well over $700,000.
Experts say potential buyers far outweigh inventory in Metro Denver, and there are also investors in the market, both local and out of state, who are hard to beat because they offer cash and a quick close. Realtor Joy Dysart listed this Centennial home just a few days ago, and it already closed.
It was on the market for $580,000. We did it coming soon, we did full photos, and then we went live and had showings for 3 days. We basically had 60 showings, 13 offers, and we chose the best offer of that. We got an offer for $680,500.
So how far over ask?
That was $100,500.
Over ask.
Over ask.
Coming up at 6, we'll hear from a first-time home buyer, a young buyer, and the concessions she had to make to get into this market. In Denver, Russell Haythorne, back to you.
That is just crazy, Russell. And as the housing market stays hot, the city's trying to create more affordable options. The Rose on Colfax is being built right now by Mercy Housing on Colfax on the city's east side. When this development opens next year, it will feature 82 units for families and a child care center on the first floor.
We had a number of neighborhood meetings, outreach meetings at the beginning of the process a couple years ago, and folks were really interested in us having the child care center. So I think it's going to be a great addition to the neighborhood.
The Rose on Colfax will offer housing for people and families making less than 70% of the area median income. That is around $73,000 for a family of 4.
Lawsuits challenging the No Surprise Act are popping up all over the country. The new law that took effect this year protects us from getting surprise medical bills when we get certain out-of-network medical treatment.
I would emphasize it's not every type of provider that sends these surprise bills. It tends to be focused on ones that might be owned by a private equity company or have a real profit margin. Many of them using patients and using these surprise bills to make a lot of money. And so it threatens how much they're going to make. And so they're suing over it.
Experts and advocates for health insurance reform are drawing attention to these lawsuits. They say their outcomes could bring changes to the No Surprises Act or eventually lead to higher insurance premiums. In Texas, one court has already sided with a challenge involving arbitration to settle bill disputes.
But if you take off that guardrail, there's sort of this risk that providers use arbitration as an opportunity to get higher rates when it's not warranted for them to be doing so. And so, all of those higher rates, if insurance companies have to pay providers more, that all trickles down to all of us.
But we're fighting that. And we've filed an amicus brief to support the government to make sure the law stays strong.
Now, if the New York lawsuit is successful, it threatens the entire act. But for now, advocates want you to know that you should not be surprised with out-of-network bills for the most common practices like ER care, air ambulances, and anesthesiologists. But certain services are not covered in the act.
We're starting to see now more in provider offices, the opportunity to have your blood drawn there or maybe even get some testing done or some imaging done. Just because it's in your in-network provider's office doesn't necessarily mean that's an in-network service. So we also ask you to always make sure that you double check before you get your blood drawn or an EKG done or something like that. That is not, those services are not out of network.
And even with the act in place, research in advance so you can know your in-network providers. You can learn more information about the new protections at StopSurpriseBillingNow.com. Well, there's a growing movement to change how child sex abuse victims can report the crimes.
So to say it over and over and over again just brings back all those memories and those sensations where we know we can do it better.
How their new kind of reporting center works to try to help children heal more quickly.
And still to come, giving people living with a brain injury a place to call home. We take a look at the unique development coming to Denver and how it will provide jobs in the process.